The findings so far have been really quite remarkable. Two things about them that really stand out to us. One is that this holistic approach, this more integrated approach of creating a livelihood for the ultra poor and providing consumption support, the asset transfers, training and coaching has added up to something that not only worked in the short run during the life of the program, but in the long run. And by long run here, I'm referring to both 3-year and then in Bangladesh, 4 years. And the other remarkable thing is how, frankly, consistent the results are across the sites. Not to say everything's exactly the same, of course, there's always going to be nuances and subtleties across. But it's really fairly consistent. And this is something that is, always the thing you search for, is what are the more common lessons and themes we can get out. It doesn't mean we have a cookie cutter, and it does not mean we have a miracle, right? Anybody who tries selling the one thing and claims to be a miracle throughout should be immediately discredited. But the thing that is striking to us is, IPA and JPAL have been involved in 500 to 600 randomized trials over the past 10 years now, 11 years. And there's really only a handful, 5 to 10 things that have risen to the top that have clear evidence, consistent evidence, and a clear theory of change behind them, so that we have championed them into scale up. And this is now entering into that phase as far as we're concerned. This doesn't mean we're done. It doesn't mean it's a one-size-fit-all, cure-all thing. But it is striking that the results are consistent and large enough to really rise up and be something that we feel confident championing and working with other groups around the world to learn from these lessons, figure out how to adapt it into their context, the basic idea. We need to think about it in terms of what the next best alternative is, right? So if we're running a government ministry or a large NGO and we're trying to reach the ultra poor, right? Think about it, there's being 3 choices. There's this approach, there's an alternative approach, and there's doing nothing. So when someone says to me, should we take this to scale? My first reaction is, well, it certainly beats doing nothing. We do have evidence of that. So the real question we want to know is, how does it do compared to some of these other approaches? Could this be done more cheaply or more and easily or at scale if we reduced some of the monitoring and the training? How much of that component is particularly necessary? More abstractly, one can ask that question about almost any of the components. Maybe the savings accounts are not necessary. Maybe the health component is not necessary, right? We don't know whether this worked because all components were there together and they had to be there together, or whether it would be cost effective to drop one out that wasn't actually doing any of the heavy lifting in the program. So that's a second question. The third question we have is really just about long-term and kind of trickle-down effects, let's say, within the household. What are the effect on the youth who lived in these households, and how does this change their later life, their aspirations in life, seeing this livelihood come in and generate this income, and seeing the energy that the family put into this sustainable livelihood? And how does that change what they choose to do as an occupation when they turn 18, 19, 20, 16, whatever the age is? So we want to know those long-term effects as well. One of the things that really does strike us is the fact that we are finding these more or less consistent results across these different settings, and it's quite exhilarating to have been it's an honor to have been part of this program and help observe whether this is having the types of impacts that we're hoped for.